Do you think people can get rich by just doing a job?
When we acquired, if that company was doing 100 units of transactions per day, today it's doing almost 5,000 transactions a day.
Right, like I've been to the US once, and the only thing I was looking at the buildings, and I was like, wow, this is a different world. And since then, I've been wanting to go to Silicon Valley because I'm like, क्या है वहाँ पे ऐसा?
Somebody is trying to solve problem on health side, somebody is trying to solve payments problem. Every 21, 22, 25, 30, everybody is talking in a cafe about solving a problem. SIP is such a simple compounding product. My personal vision and disconnect was that why should investor pay both expense fee and commission? And that is why we got obsessed about saying that we want people to access zero commission direct plan mutual funds on Ind Money.
I thought about this concept called the unhappiness concept. अगर आपको entrepreneur बनना है, look at what makes you unhappy. And every problem is a potential opportunity for an entrepreneur. What do you do when you need to make a big decision in your life? What's happening, guys? In today's episode, we have serial entrepreneur Ashish Kashyap. He's the founder of Ind Money. He was also the founder of Goibibo and multiple other tech consumer businesses. In today's episode, we discuss how you can invest your money, which kind of skill you should focus on. If you are someone who is looking to understand the Indian demographics and how Indian money is being earned and spent, this is the place for you to be. First thing that I want to ask, because I also run a small company, what is the hiring philosophy that you have at IND, that the talent you have is a little better than all the other talents?
Yeah, see, it's very simple. I think everybody chases not just skills.
Yeah.
We are chasing two things. कि एक तो skill होना चाहिए, and the other is that there has to be a lot of high energy and high intent. तो एक अच्छा matrix बनाया है हमने 2x2. अगर आप y axis पे लो skill और x axis पे लो आप energy levels. So we try and get people on the top right quadrant. And agar even if the skill is low but energy intent is very high, skills can be pushed and taught. So a lot of buyers for people who love to execute with high energy, ownership, and can do it. And lastly, we try and avoid, especially when companies are 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100. जब companies बहुत बड़ी हो गई हैं, then it's fine. But we try to avoid people who have employee mindset. The mindset has to be owner.
Yeah.
अगर मेरे से कोई सवाल पूछे work-life balance क्या है, so to which my answer is you have to figure it out, right? कब काम करना है, कब मज़े करने हैं, कब क्या करना है, you have to handle it yourself, right? So owner mindset, entrepreneurial mindset is very, very critical.
And how do you inculcate that culture? Because one thing is, even I, for that matter, tell my HR team that I also want people who are entrepreneurial and they get shit done on their own. I don't want to micromanage them. But at the same time, they never feel like they're entrepreneurial, even though they'll say कि हाँ हम कर रहे हैं. But that culture, how do you make sure that culture is going to the grassroots level?
Very, very good question, firstly. And a very straight answer is through data and analytics. Every person's life is like a game, right? Where you want to kind of reach certain level in a game.
Yeah.
So similarly, your day-to-day life also is like a game. You want to reach a particular metric. So a metric for a product manager is that मेरे को conversion rates, I need to move from X to Y. The metric for an influencer marketing person is I want to improve the brand query volume, or I want to improve acquisition numbers via influencer marketing, and I want to do better than Google USC.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of focus across the organization, including tech, is on metric. And people want to chase those metric and giving them achievable metric. If you give them non-achievable metric, people won't be excited.
Correct.
So for example, when you play a game, level 1 should be easy, right?
Yeah.
Because if level 1 में ही आप हारते रहोगे, you'll never go to level 2. Level 3 you'll never go to. So level 1 of the game for that team member needs to be such that you try and create opportunities for the person to win. Then make the level 2 slightly harder, right? But it has to be done through data and analytics. So for example, in your business, if you say, listen, we need to do this activity leading to these number of units, is not enough. There has to be a bit of a gamification and metric element to it. And then you see the human being behave very differently. The team member behave like an owner.
So for the audience context, let's do a quick history of yours. And by the way, I'm your junior.
Okay.
I did economics honors from Delhi University as well.
Okay, awesome.
2020
Okay,
batch.
okay.
Cool. Then the first stint that you had was at?
So my first stint
Times Internet?
was with Times Internet. Then I went to do my education. I came back and I
You went to the US, then you came back.
yeah,
then you
yeah. Not
joined-
US, Canada, and then I came back and I basically joined Google.
Correct. You were the country head at Google India.
Correct.
Then you started the Goibibo group, which was more of an incubator to begin with.
Correct.
Where you did a few experiments with the companies.
Correct,
Then
correct.
you made that into a Goibibo, the travel company that.
Bang on.
Then you acquired RedBus.
Then we built PayU also in the middle.
Correct. Because that the insight there was, correct me if I'm wrong, because you were not able to find a payment aggregator outside the company, so you built it within the company itself.
We were having a lot of payment failures.
Yeah.
So we just built it ourselves.
Perfect. And then you went into the Fintech department, which is the Ind Money, after selling.
Correct. After we got merged with after the M&A with Make My Trip,
Correct.
then I started Ind Money.
I saw that RedBus journey was one of your toughest part because, and I think you spoke about this in another interview as well, that when you acquire a company, the culture is different, the founders are different, the vision are different, and then you had to almost go back to RedBus. But they had great branding and great network effect, are the two things that you had mentioned with RedBus. So why did you take up that challenge? Because you were anyway I think you were 20x bigger compared to your competitors. What was the requirement of RedBus? And was that more of a domination of the market?
Yeah,
thing that
so
you had in mind?
I think very clearly RedBus is a and was a bus ticketing player.
Yeah.
With this two-sided network effects between travelers, passengers, and bus operators.
Right.
As you know, creating businesses with two-sided network effects is very hard. So if today's date, as an example, if today's date you wanted to create another Swiggy or Zomato, it would be very hard. These are two-sided or three-sided marketplaces. Okay. Even if I were to give you $1 billion,
Yeah.
and say do whatever you want to do, creating a three-sided or a two-sided marketplace is very hard, right? So that was one motivation, because RedBus had created a two-sided, somewhat.
Can you dumb this down for the audience? Network effect?
So network effect basically means that when more, in case of RedBus, and I'll take the example of food delivery also. In case of RedBus, when more bus operators join the platform, the value to the passenger increases many times, because the bus operators are competing for the passengers. Right. And hence the two-sided network effects take off, right? So that is in the scheme of things where two-sided is concerned. When we look at something like a food delivery, in food delivery, when more restaurants join, then more food delivery boys join, and then it becomes more valuable for all the constituents, including the people who are ordering the food. So when the value of a network becomes disproportionate when more people join a system, that is what is called network effects, and breaking ice with network effects is very hard.
Got it. So
coming back, so RedBus had network effects, great conversion rates. Some of its core tech was really bad, and when we knew as a team, when we were acquiring, we are buying into a great company with great network effects. Very difficult, even if I'm very smart as a team,
to replicate it,
and hence to replicate the conversion rates at the bottom of the funnel. But we also knew the problems, and it was an expensive deal for that time. This is 2012 or 13. It was a very, very high value deal which India had never seen, and I stuck out my neck to say we must do this, right? And I think it's a great thing, because when we acquired, if that company was doing 100 units of transactions per day, today it's doing almost 5,000 transactions a day. So it has really beautifully scaled. So very valuable asset. So if you acquired that asset for 100 million, I think if that asset was to get listed separately, would be about a $2 billion asset. So these were the two motivations.
Got it. And just to simplify for the audience, network effect, it can also happen in service business, right? Like if you look at my company, that also is a network effect, because there's a creator and there's a brand. So the more creators come in, the more value for the brand increases, and the more brand comes in, the value for the creator.
100%.
That's what you're talking about.
100%.
So as a entrepreneur, you should always look at how you can increase your value in terms of the demand and supply.
Exactly. So let's say you can do two kind of businesses. One is that you can say that I will be the only creator, or I will have 10 creators in my team or 20 creators in my team. Versus you say I'm going to create the largest network of creators on one side, and on the other side I will have brands on the other side, or whatever, right? On the other side of the platform. What is more scalable? What is more valuable? What creates more disproportionate value as more constituents join? Obviously the latter, right?
Got it. Makes sense. Cool. I want to touch upon this term called exposure, which we Gen Z also throw a lot out there in the market. And I remember you mentioning this, that when you were country head at Google, the innovation that you saw in that company really took your exposure 20x, right? Now, what is it that these companies like Apple, Google, all these silicon companies had that we Indian companies do not have? And what can a 20, 25-year-old do to increase their exposure?
See, this is 2000. I'll go back 2005. That's like many, many years, right?
It's 20 years almost.
Yeah. So 2005 in India, someone like you who has come out of, a university, undergrad, postgrad, you didn't want to do a setup like this. You want to go, and your family also wanted कि यार जाके नौकरी कर ले. And that too, अगर कर सकता है तो MNC. There's a word called MNC. I don't even know if people know, multinational corporations, right? MNC. मेरा लड़का MNC में काम करता है, right? That was the syndrome. This is back then. And when I would go to Mountain View or to the Silicon Valley, I would just see everyone is just talking about let's solve a problem. Somebody's wanting to solve direct to consumer supply of coffee. Somebody's trying to make this very nice razor club type of a thing. Somebody's trying to solve problem on health side. Somebody's trying to solve payments problem. Everyone, 21, 22, 25, 30, everybody's talking in a cafe about solving a problem.
Got it.
Whereas in India, that narrative didn't hold good, right? You would go and hear everybody's talking, okay, can I join Infosys? Can I join Satyam? Satyam is not there anymore. Can I join some tech services company? Oh, can I get a job in Microsoft? Nobody was talking about, listen, I want to solve a problem. But now if you see over the last 3 to 5 years time, now it's changed. You go to Silicon Valley, it's dead. You walk in Bangalore, Delhi, Gurgaon, Mumbai, folks like you are wanting to create. You want to create impact. It's a huge change that has happened.
So this is exactly what I want to go deeper into, because we don't know this, right? Like I've been to the US once, I think 3 years ago, and I was in New York, and the only thing I was looking at the buildings, and I was like, wow, this is a different world. And since then I have been wanting to go to Silicon Valley, because I'm like, क्या है वहाँ पे ऐसा, इनकी एनर्जी क्या है, वो ऐसा क्या इनोवेशन कर रहे हैं जो हमें नहीं आती है. एंड आई एग्री विद यू दैट टुडे 22-22-year-old दे वांट टू डू समथिंग ऑफ देयर ओन. बट मुझे फिर भी ऐसा लगता है, आप यू कैन करेक्ट मी, दैट वी आर नॉट एज इनोवेटिव. वी आर स्टिल डूइंग द सेम बिजनेसेस दैट देयर आर इन द वेस्ट. देयर वी ट्राइंग टू कॉपी पेस्ट इट. वी आर ट्राइंग टू लर्न मोर. इट्स कमिंग more from a learning and doing aspect rather than an innovation aspect of it. What do you think about that?
I think that was the case earlier, but I can now vouch for that there are enough businesses now in India which are being built on first principles problems. So first let's talk about Fintech. Like if you look at Ind Money, if somebody asks me what does Ind Money look like versus something in US or Europe, a lot of people try to get similarities. But you see, we are living in a fully regulated ecosystem. Our rails have to be very unique with exchanges, with KYC systems.
Correct.
We have to look at fundamental problems. Open banking is very different in US, completely different here. Regulations for banking are different, for capital markets are different. So we have to really innovate locally in this market, looking at the consumer problem with the context of rule of the land and regulation. So we don't look at, I don't think us fintech players hardly ever look to the West for innovation. We are really thinking first principles, right? Like for example, Ind Money introduce investing in global markets. Because we are using these brands. There was no parallel in US, right? This was a specific use case for Indians to be able to access other than domestic markets, global markets.
True. Yeah, 100%.
Same way, payments, which is UPI payments, is very unique to India. There is no parallel example actually. I think UPI now contributes to 40% of global transaction volume. UPI just in India. So again, a great thing which TPApps, third-party apps like all the payment apps which are doing a lot of interesting stuff where we don't see any parallels of that in US or Europe or any other part of the world, right? Yes, you can argue in China there is something, but this is really, really unique what the whole payments ecosystem along with NPCI has done, which is to make the whole banking interoperable. And now credit is going to be taken to another level. Credit is going to become interoperable. Nobody has ever heard of this in US. So I think definitely financial services, we are way ahead. Then you come to even services like food tech. I won't compare with China, right? Because they're different scale, different culture. But if I'm 100% sure the volumes, I'm not talking value, the volumes of Swiggy plus Zomato will be far higher than Deliveroos of the world, right? Or delivery heroes of the world. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And these companies, while of course the problem being solved is, oh, somebody's hungry, I want to serve food. But these problems which are being solved along with this 10-minute delivery, Blinkit and Zepto are so unique, right? And the problems are unique, right? How does the motorcyclist behave, the third side of the marketplace? How should the restaurant behave, and so on and so forth? What system do I need to give to the restaurant owner? What system do I need to give to the motorcyclist? I think these are all extremely unique models which have been created. You know, a lot of people would ask me, कि यार, in a business, when you think of starting a business, what is it that unique you are doing? So unique is not about the high level problem that, listen, the problem I'm solving is to deliver food to you. The unique is how are you executing that business? How are you making the unit economics more efficient? How are you ensuring that the delivery happens on time? How are you ensuring that the ranking and algorithms, all of that are such that the behavior of the three sides of the ecosystem is well done in terms of, you know, all the three parts of the ecosystem behave properly in a marketplace, right? So a lot of innovation is not usually what is the solution, but innovation is how are you executing that solution, and that's really what is happening in India, and which has really changed, right, from the time when I grew up in this whole internet era.
Yeah. So do you think aspiration is the keyword here? Like, we Indians are so aspirational that we want to do X, Y, Z. Like, we look at the West also, you know, like, we also want to build something similar. What has changed that is making us grow so fast? And people talk about that India is, you know, this century is India's century, and US keeps talking about it, and a bunch of presidents as well, that, you know, India is the century. This century is India's. What's your take on that?
Yeah, you know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, a lot of people used to take pride in owning not made in India brands.
Correct. Yeah.
Right, 15 to 20 years ago, like a lot of people would say, oh, you know, they would take pride in owning brands which are not made here. In fact, a lot of people would look down upon local brands if they were not Japanese, or they were not US, they were not Canadian, they were not whatever. But what has biggest thing changed is that the pride for the country has gone up, right? And of course, it's not happened in isolation. Many things have played out. But essentially now the young generation of India, which is what is the largest part of our population, is really proud of India, which was not the case 15 to 20 years ago. And that is a huge change, because when you're proud of the country, you know, where you are born in and where you live and where you've grown up, you just don't want to exist. You don't want to be just in existence. You want to be winning, right? You know, and which means you want to be winning against other nations. So a lot of entrepreneurs now, a lot of builders now are saying that, listen, I want to build better services here in India. And many of them are also saying, listen, I'm not just going to build services here in India. I'm going to build here in India, and I'm going to actually serve the globe also. So a lot of services have now, Indian services have gone across the world.
Yeah.
By the way, RedBus service we took to multiple nations in LATAM and Southeast Asia, and they became leading services in each of those nations, right?
Wow.
Similarly, you know, we've seen a lot of these food delivery companies have gone to multiple nations. We've seen a lot of enterprise companies like Freshworks and all have gone to multiple nations. Zoho has. So I think that is really happening. It's not just about being proud of building in India now, which is great. But now it's also a lot of entrepreneurs are saying, can I, compete in the global market?
Cool. So moving on to the fintech aspect of it, Ind Money is what you're doing right now. What was that one core insight that, you know, made you start Ind Money? And I'll tell you why I love the product. It's because I remember my earliest memory of money in my house was my dad telling me कि किधर कितना पैसा रखा है याद ही नहीं है, एफडी में कुछ डाल रखा है, यूएस स्टॉक्स तो भूल ही जाओ आप, एफडी होता था, इंडिया स्टॉक्स में जो नॉर्मल डायरेक्ट स्टॉक्स इंडेक्स फंड होते थे वो होते थे, थोड़ी सेविंग्स होती थी, बट इट्स ऑल, यू नो, इट्स रैंडम, इट्स बिखरा हुआ है, एंड देयर इज अ नोटबुक दैट इट्स मेंशन. आई थिंक Ind Money गॉट ऑल ऑफ दैट टुगेदर, एंड दैट वाज द वन की इनसाइड दैट आई रिमेंबर कि ठीक है, कम से कम इसके लिए तो मुझे यूज़ करना है, आई विल इंटीग्रेट ऑल माय बैंक अकाउंट्स एंड, यू नो, म्यूचुअल फंड, सो दैट आई नो व्हाट्स माय नेट वर्थ इज. दैट वाज लाइक जस्ट शेयरिंग एन एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ माइन. बट
या, सो आई थिंक वेरी वेल पुट इट. मतलब इसमें ये है कि इफ़ योर मनी इज़ fragmented, if your money is all over multiple bank accounts, multiple investments, मल्टीपल प्रोविडेंट फंड्स एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. अगर आपको पता ही नहीं अपने पैसे के बारे में तो आप उसको इन्वेस्ट कैसे करोगे इफेक्टिवली. सो द इनसाइट हमारी बिल्कुल सिंपल थी कि देखो हाउ डू वी इनेबल इंडियंस टू बी एबल टू कंट्रोल देयर मनी. बिकॉज अगर आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाओगे पैसा, ट्रैक नहीं कर पाओगे, तो आप उसको इफेक्टिवली कंपाउंड कैसे करोगे.
सही बात है.
अगर आपको पता ही नहीं क्या हो रहा है पैसे के साथ सबसे पहले, राइट. तो दैट वाज द फर्स्ट इनसाइट. बहुत सारी ऐप्स तब थी जो कह रही थी म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट कर लो, यहाँ कर लो, वहाँ कर लो. बट यहाँ पे इनसाइट सिंपल थी कि यार देखो आपको लोगों को इनेबल करना है कि ऑटोमेटिकली, बाय द वे एक और बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्ड था हमारे लिए, ऑटोमेटिक. बिकॉज अगर आप बोलो लोगों को बही खाता लिखना है तो कोई करेगा नहीं, राइट. अगर मैं एक्सेल को खाली रिप्लेस करूँगा और बोलूँगा पंच करना शुरू कर दे अपना, या डेटा एंट्री करने लग जा, then it won't work out, right? So here the insight was automatically, how do we enable people to automatically track their money across every account possible and automatically without them making effort, because you want to, because human beings are in general lazy, right? You want to make it frictionless. And then if they are able to track their finances, then they will be able to effectively invest. And when it comes to invest, how do we give them all instruments in one place? Because people like to never put all their eggs in one basket.
Yes.
So hence that is why we were the first ones in India to open global investing. And then we opened domestic investing via Indian stocks. So one place for people to invest are in Indian stocks, US stocks, mutual funds, deposits, national pension schemes, through just a single place, right? And they're able to then see their allocation across the board. Are they over allocated? Are they under allocated? Have they diversified properly or not? And that is why we are one of the first ones to really educate people about doing SIP in stocks. So you can do an SIP in stock X, or you can do an SIP in an ETF.
Yeah.
SIP is such a simple, but such a beautiful compounding product. You don't need to wait for market timing. You don't need to, because everything gets averaged out. It is a forced saving. It's automatic, which means it gets deducted automatically from your bank account. So yeah, so I think the simple thing is, step one, track your finances. If you don't know where your finances is, you will mess it up. Step number 2 is set your goals, and step number 3 is start at SIP towards that goals. You have to keep it as simple as it is. If you overcomplicate it, you will feel frustrated.
Yeah. And one of my favorite features from the app is that switching from regular funds to direct funds, and I'm amazed. It came to me like it came that you're losing X amount of money because you're invested in regular mutual funds, and then switch to direct because the commission is reduced. So I think that is also
so I think so essentially there are 2 kinds of mutual fund schemes in India. One scheme is called a regular plan, which has commissions.
Correct.
And the other schemes are direct plans, which has 0 commissions. Now mutual funds is a product where you are also already paying a management fee.
Yes.
Expense ratio बोलते हैं उसको, to the mutual fund house. So my personal vision and disconnect was that why should a human being, investor, pay both expense fee and commissions? It has to be one fee, right? And that is why we got obsessed about saying that we want people to access 0 commission direct plan mutual funds on Ind Money. And not only that, also enable them to be able to effectively switch if they want to switch from regular to direct, with giving all the information, like if there are any tax breaks and so on and so forth.
Now talking about money, how can someone making 6 lakhs, 8 lakhs, 9 lakhs a month, how do you look at them? How are they spending their money today in India, and what can they do to optimize for their wealth?
Yeah, I think in general, everybody needs to realize that if they are earning a certain income, they definitely need to be saving at least 20% of their money.
Okay. So
they need
first
to be,
thumb rule is 20% savings.
20% they must save. And because if they save and if they do a SIP, they will compound over a long term. And even if they are right now negative net worth, because maybe they have a loan running, or short-term loan, education loan, maybe. So right now maybe they are negative net worth, but because of this discipline of saving, they will get into a positive zone soon, and then they will basically compound. So that 20% saving has to be like a medicine.
Okay.
They should definitely do, irrespective whatever happens, right? And that'll just make them also psychologically stronger and feel better over a period of time.
And do you think people can get rich by just doing a job? Because there's a going on Gen Z that you can't become rich by doing a job and just start an entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I think you can definitely compound doing a job by saving. But so by the way, there are two concepts, right? Rich and wealthy. So you can compound, you can definitely get to a certain...
How do you define rich versus wealthy also for the audience?
So I think, wealth is something where you create something which can be given to many generations and can also be contributed to for societal impact, for causes which otherwise find hard to get access to capital.
Got it.
So that's wealth. Whereas I think rich is some kind of a short-term money that you may make, and then you use that money to do something. So the two are different concepts.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So in my view, can you compound your money using your salary and saving 100%? And you must do that, right? Because that's what makes any human being psychologically stronger, because that just gives you a buffer. 15 years, let's say a 22-year-old just starting to work, and that person is suddenly 35, he'll say, wow, I've gone and compounded this. I've created this corpus of 3 CR, which is great, or whatever, at net present value, maybe 5 CR, okay? So that's important. But now to your question on wealth, I think wealth creation can only happen through equity, which is ESOPs. If the individual has participated in a company which has an employee stock option program, or the person becomes an entrepreneur, founder, co-founder like you. Okay, so that's how the wealth gets created. Wealth creation doesn't happen from pure play salary. In fact, the salary itself is a misnomer, because a lot of people discuss with me, my salary is today's date 12 lakhs and I'm getting 20 lakhs. To which my answer to them is, listen, firstly, that 20 lakhs you won't get in single month, you get it amortized over 12 months.
Correct.
And the other thing is that you don't get 20 lakhs because there is tax deducted also, right? So yes, so to very simply put it, you can compound using your salary and saving with the rule that I gave, 20%. And the second is, but you cannot create wealth salary. For that, you need to participate in ESOPs. And you need to become an entrepreneur.
The top 1%, let's say the 90 million people, where are they spending majority of their money? Because you mentioned last 4 saal mein that number has increased. Are they spending on online? Are they spending on Flipkart and Amazon and Swiggy of the world? I think food delivery has tremendously increased online. But what's the spending pattern that you are seeing from your...
So I'll tell you, there is a very big overlap. So within 90 million also I can break up. But within 90 million, there is a big overlap. There are about 40 million credit card users.
Okay.
And these users are power users. These 30-40 million users are power users of travel, e-commerce, food delivery, extremely power users of all of these kind of products. That's one area, right? So lots of spends on food delivery, lots of spends on travel. Travel has just exploded over the last 3 to 4 years time, right? So we get to see so much of transactions happening for my ex company, which is Goibibo, right? So these are the things that definitely, and then also outbound travel, right? So there is a lot of spends. But there is
urban as in international.
International, right? But there is a huge ramp up of, I won't call it spend, but money going into investment wallets of various fintech apps like us, right? So that's also very, very prevalent. Not from the credit card, as you know, you can't use your credit card to load a Ind Money wallet. You have to do it from your verified bank account.
Yeah.
But that's the other area where we've seen tremendous amount
of
investment.
Money is
going. So let's say if I were to look at today's date, anonymized, without any name and all, if I were to look at a bank statement and a credit card statement, the core themes that I would see is, I would see money going from the user's account to a credit card bill, to money moving to investment accounts.
Nice.
And from the credit card bill, the money is going to, other than your rental income, the money is going to, from the credit card bill, the money is going to things like Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy, Zomato, Goibibo, etc., right? So that's where the, and these spends have really jumped.
Got it. I think another thing, which is a framework that I want to talk about, I think you think in frameworks and you think in data. I was giving this talk last week at Social Nation, and the talk was about how to be an entrepreneur at 20. And I was thinking, first of all, it's not a best idea to be an entrepreneur at 20, but I thought about this concept called the unhappiness concept, which is, अगर आपको entrepreneur बनना है, look at what makes you unhappy. And what I was trying to say is that if I'm unhappy with XYZ thing, if Karan or Chinmay is happy with unhappy with certain things, that probably is a problem. Now you as an entrepreneur needs to look for problem, and if that problem is viable enough to be solved for. So look at this unhappiness around you. If there's unhappiness, there might be a problem, and every problem is a potential opportunity for an entrepreneur. That's how I went by it. But what's your how do you look at a problem, and if it's worth solving? Like, how did you decide that okay, travel is a problem worth solving for, or finance today is a problem worth solving for?
Yeah, so I'm a very selfish person when it comes to problem, but jokes apart, I think, there's a saying called wearer only knows where the shoe pinches. So which means that if you're able to relate to a problem as an individual, you'll try to do more justice. You'll have good, deep insights. So most of the problems that you have seen me trying to solve or attempting to solve, I've also failed many times.
Yeah.
But most of the problems that I've tried to solve have been problems which I can relate with, which I would face personally. Like, the whole money management was my personal problem, personal pain area. Listen, why is it so difficult? Why is no one solving it? I would question, and I would question this again and again. And then once I, exited from my last startup, I said this is something which I want to definitely do because this was a very, very big pain area. And hence the birth of Ind Money. That listen, can I enable Indians to give up, to basically to easily manage their finances across their family members, right? That was the aim. Similarly, if you look at Goibibo, the hotel booking was very unreliable. Flight ticketing was very, very unreliable with most incumbents. And very, very complicated, and even though there were pretty web UXs, then there was no mobile app. And the whole birth of Goibibo was, can I deliver a reliable booking experience to a person? If he wants to travel from Delhi to Bombay, he wants to cancel it, can I give him his money back within minutes? If he wants to book a hotel in Manali, can he book it reliably and easily without the hotel kicking him out at the right price? Very simple. How do we deliver reliable experiences? And hence a lot of work had to be done. So I think pain area which I personally face, I would do book hotels and whatever amongst at that time they were not my competitors but incumbents, right? And it was just unreliable, and that's how Goibibo's birth happened. PayU's birth happened because the incumbent payment gateways were not very reliable and they would fail. So can we build a payment system which is more reliable, which will reduce the cost of acquisition and so on and so forth. So I think a lot of these businesses have happened because of my personal pain area. For example, now on Ind Money, I really wanted to be able to invest in a Google, Facebook, etc. Why is it so difficult? Why can't we make it happen? And we made it happen. Now, domestic market, how do we make investing very, very easy for people? Like, how do we make it as passive? So that's why we started SIP in Indian stocks and made it very easy. Like, you can put 20 rupees a day and invest in a stock of your choice. And with so much of ease and very easy dashboards and so on and so forth. So it's just really a lot of my journey has been around things which I personally felt were very painful.
Cool. So I'll do a rapid fire. You have to answer it within 2 to 3 seconds, max 5 seconds. First is your ideal kind of vacation.
On a yacht.
What do you do when you need to make a big decision in your life?
So first, I don't make it in a haste, and I do scoring of pros and cons. So I write scores against each attribute, and and I finally look at what's the final score, and I keep 30% to intuition and gut. So 70% to that score, 30% to intuition.
Nice. That's a good one. What best describes your philosophy in life?
Simplicity.
What's the quirkiest feature or hidden feature in Ind Money that users might not know about?
Okay, so there are 2 features which people may not know about. The first feature is that, a lot of people may be invested in commission-loaded regular plan mutual funds. And you can, in a single or few clicks, you can switch them to zero commission mutual funds using the app. The second beautiful feature is you can tag your family members and you can add your family members.
Nice.
And you can manage your money across family members, which I think is a very, very powerful feature, but it's hidden.
Got it. Awesome. All right, boss. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think the best part about this is that how, when you said the simplicity thing also, is that you deal with so many complex problems. And while I'm talking to you, I was thinking about, I have so many problems in life, this is not working out for me. And then your answer to the philosophy of life is simplicity. And I was just thinking that you break down everything into such smaller granular things that it makes you feel like ठीक है ये solvable है, पहले इसको solve करो, फिर A, फिर B, फिर C, फिर D, instead of just jumping to Z and thinking about there are so many problems, and I think that's what I learned from you. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
doing this
simple.
podcast. Thanks Ashish for doing this.
No, lovely. Thanks a lot.
Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in onto this podcast. If you're interested in more podcasts similar to this, then click on this I button and watch the others as well.